Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and call the agenda session to order. Let's see. Under the mayor's announcements, proclamations, and recognitions, I believe, Susan, you have something for us?
So two things. As a reminder, of course, our next meeting, y'all's next meeting is March 1st at the Public School Board Room, and we gave you that information on how to get there. Press release went out yesterday so everybody can find it. But since we're going to be there on their premises, the mayor's going to read proclamations in honor of our state champs in football, volleyball, golf, and cross country. So, and they're still racking them up. Those are the four they've got so far. So they'll be at the beginning.
Who's counting? But we got them all.
As humble as
yeah, as humble as I can. You know. Okay, and also Paul's going to be giving the 2015 fourth quarter financial report. Paul?
I will get the council meeting.
All righty then. Moving along to the consent agenda. Number one, approval of the February 16, 2016 City Council meeting minutes. Number two, a resolution to approve a one-year contract extension with Instaform Technologies Incorporated in the amount of not to exceed $330,000 for sewer rehabilitation using cured-in-place sanitary sewer linings. Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is our annual sewer rehab contract where we repair the sewer pipe with liners. These pipes have already been identified by either the city doing regular maintenance or by consultants performing evaluation studies. It's important to the long-term maintenance of the sewer collection system, and this is year 4 of a 5-year possible extension within City Farm.
Okay. Has this been through the Water and Sewer Committee?
Yes.
Okay. John?
Well, Tim, just explain for the benefit of folks at home and those of us here, how do we know we're getting our money's worth for this $300,000+ we're spending? How do we know these guys aren't just going through motions, running an auger through the sewer and not really doing anything?
Well, basically the way that it works is the city identifies the line segments, and they have kept their price for 4 years at the same cost per foot. First thing they do is they have their own people clean and TV the lines prior to cleaning. It's a good way to catch a possible point repair that the city needs to do that we didn't catch. And then they put their cured-in-place pipe in there, shoot steam to it, get it to harden, and then they have to go through with the camera and they have to cut out the risers for the service lines coming into the line. So we see a TV inspection before and after. And as part of the project, they give us CDs of everything that they've done.
Okay, when you say TV inspection, there's a camera on the end of an auger that goes through the line?
It's not on the end of an auger. It's a camera that's self-propelled on the end of a cable.
Okay.
It's real interesting to go see. I've watched them run that.
Yeah. Okay. So you feel, just as our point man on this is a good deal, you stand by it?
This is a good deal for all municipalities in the country. It is the best long-term. You don't have to tear up the streets. You just have to slip line the pipe. You can't do it forever because your pipes will get too small.
Yep.
Okay. And we need it, right? I mean, we always have lines that need to have this done to them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Just because our lines deteriorate or they fill up with debris or...
No, not fill up with debris, but they deteriorate and because of age and just age is what does it.
Thank you.
Thank you for your work on that. You all do an excellent job.
Thank you.
All right, number 3, a resolution pursuant to Federal Code of Ordinances, Section 39.10C4, to authorize the mayor to pay the amount of $8,971.91 to Hog Dwellings, LLC, and $7,936.56 to ServPro of Fayetteville Springdale for a wastewater damage claim arising at 902 West Cleveland Street. Tim.
So, Mayor, speaking of the sewer lines, some of these old lines do get root intrusions that we are not constantly aware of. And this is what happened at 902 West Cleveland. We had roots causing a sewer stoppage that backed up into the claimant's address, and it inundated the carpets, the floors, baseboards, the HVAC. So half of it is to ServPro to clean up the mess, and the other half is to the claimant to repair his house.
Okay. What questions? Has this been through water and sewer?
Yes.
Comments, questions?
if this happens to anybody, we stand by it, and we would pay this for anybody, right?
Right, we have them fill out a claim and submit it to us, and then we weigh it against the merits of the claim, and pay it if it's warranted.
Anything else? Okay. Number 4, a resolution to approve supplemental agreement to, number 1, to the contract with McCullough Consulting Engineers Incorporated for additional construction phase services associated with the Old Wire Road Sewer Main Replacement Project, which will increase the total amount of the contract from $228,644 to an amount not to exceed $250,402, and to approve a budget adjustment. Tim?
Well, Mr. Mayor, this is on the sewer rehab project that's going to be started upon approval, but the extra $21,000, the city is going to be the lead inspector on this project, but our utility inspector has several projects he's doing. This is a contingent for McClellan Engineers to be the helper on inspection when we're not there all the time. And we do have the funds available to do this.
Questions? Slip into the water and sewer.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Number 5, a resolution to award bid number 16-19 to authorize a contract with TG Excavating Incorporated in the amount of $2,373,333 for construction services associated with the Old Wire Road Sewer Main Replacement Project, to approve a project contingency in the amount of $237,333.30, and to approve a budget adjustment. Tim?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a rehabilitation and replacement of about 8,000 feet of sewer main. This was identified in the 2014 Sewer Master Plan. It goes from Ramsey North to Gully Park, and there were 4 bids received, with the lowest bid being TNG Excavating from Catoosa, Oklahoma, and staff recommends approval of this.
So it's replacement of the lines.
Yes.
Okay. Anything on that? It's just been through the Water and Sewer Committee. Has it been through the Water and Sewer Committee?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anything on that? Okay. Number 6, a resolution to approve a 1-year contract with Hub International in the amount of $13,000 with automatic renewals for 3 additional 1-year terms for the provision of insurance brokerage and consultation services. Paul?
Hub International is our insurance broker when it comes to liability insurance, equipment insurance, and general property insurance. What they initially do is serve as our go-between between us and the actual insurance company. They also do consulting work and accommodate that communication between us and the actual insurance company. $13,000 we pay them, I feel, is money well spent. Like I say, they coordinate this, they put it out for insurance bids, they advise us on the bids and the bid process. So that's what they do for this money.
Any questions on that?
And sometimes we have issues with the insurance company, they'll help us with that.
We do many times. As a matter of fact, the issue that we're having currently on roofs at the airport, they've been very instrumental in working with the insurance companies and getting us what we feel is due us. So they're very, very valuable to us. We don't have that expertise here to really do that.
Okay. Under unfinished business, number 1, an ordinance to rezone that property described in rezoning petition RZN 15-5240 for approximately 128 acres, located at 2514 West Laurie Road, from RA Residential Agricultural, RSF 1 Residential Single Family 1 unit per acre, and RSF 4 Residential Single Family 4 units per acre, to RA Residential Agricultural, RMF 24 Residential Multifamily 24 units per acre, NC Neighborhood Conservation, and NS Neighborhood Services, subject to a bill of assurance. Anything new on that?
The only update to you, to your packet, is you'll notice that you have the updated bill of assurance that was passed out at the last meeting. If you'll remember, there was a different language, and there was a provision that limited the number of dwelling units to 730 dwelling units total on the property. So once you look in your packet now, that's the formal bill of assurance that's been offered, subject to the rezone.
Yeah, disregard the earlier one, that's no longer effective.
Jeremy, the staff is still recommending we approve this?
Yes, sir.
Thank
Okay, anything on that? All right, number 2. An ordinance to amend 72.58 off-street parking facilities, rules and rates, M, to limit the mayor's authority to assign any city-owned paid parking lots, off-street paid parking spaces, or the closure of city streets for the use of a permitted special event to not more than 2 days per year without express approval of the city council. Anything
I
new?
talked to Alderman Marsh, since the last meeting. She asked me to somewhat change the ordinance. I sent her a proposal, and she has suggested some other language, but at this point, she's not ready to actually present her proposed change to her ordinance, and hopefully, as soon as she is, we'll get it to you.
Okay. All right.
Mayor,
Yes, Dell.
I need to let you all know that I will not be here on the 15th, which would be the third reading on these 2 very important ordinances. So I'm going to ask that the council hold those, that we either pass them on the 2nd or we wait and have the third reading on the first meeting in April.
Okay.
But I feel like it's fair to let you all know where I am, and because I feel these are 2 very important ordinances that I'd like to vote on.
Okay. All right, anything else? Okay. New business. Hey, Mark. Number 1, an ordinance to waive the requirements of formal competitive bidding and authorize the purchase of spare parts for the thermal drying unit located at the Biosolids Management Site from AIT Services Incorporated in the amount of $65,371.50 plus applicable taxes, to approve a project contingency in the amount of $7,174.52 and to waive the requirements of formal competitive bidding for future purchases of parts and repairs services through December 31st, 2018. Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This company is the manufacturer of the thermal drying unit, and as such, they're also the manufacturers of the bearings that support this unit. No one else builds them. In fact, these bearings are custom built when they're ordered. When we had a bearing failure last year, we were able to replace one off the shelf because we had a spare. What we're asking to do is put another spare on the shelf and be able to get parts from AIT without competitive bidding for the next 3 years, basically.
Okay. Is this going through?
This did not go through the committee, but I emailed the committee members
Okay.
as soon as I found out about it, so I think they should be aware of it.
What questions do we have? Everybody good?
I like that first part where you saved the city about $1 million in landfill costs. So
It
good.
does save in landfill costs for sure.
All right. Tim, number 2, an ordinance to waive the requirements for formal competitive bidding and authorize the purchase of additional laserfish users licenses and laserfish forms, modal annual software maintenance and future software and service needs through the end of fiscal year 2017 from MCCI LLC in the amount not to exceed $235,000 plus taxes. Keith.
Mayor, I also have Augusta Branham here, our web content manager, and she's been responsible for most of the changes we've had on our website recently. So part of the item I have here tonight is to not just expand our current implementation of Laserfish to additional users, but also to add the forms module to our website. And she was instrumental in recommending that expansion to our website, so I thought it would be good for her to be here if she had any questions about that. So there's, I guess, several parts of this. It's kind of a long agenda item for an IT thing. It's purchase additional licenses to expand it to additional departments. It's purchasing the forms module. And then it's also for future years software maintenance. And then also if we expand it to other departments. So we have, the intent is to expand this to other departments, whether it's transportation, water, sewer, that type of thing.
Well, comments, questions.
Explain to the people listening at home, they may not have the benefit of what we have in our packets. What is Laserfish? What exactly are we getting for $200,000? Layman's terms.
It's a document imaging / archival system. So we have, you can imagine a city of this size has a massive amount of documents. So Laserfish is not only an archival system where you would scan, store, import documents, but it also manages those documents. So if you have some type of document that has a workflow approval process, if one person needs to look at it and the next person approves it and then it goes to long-term archiving, it does that. Or if the part that Augusta is involved in is like our online form. So if we have a form that we have a citizen or business that we want to fill out, it could be submitted online, and then it could go through some level of approval process, and we would never touch the document. It would be automated. So it would be automated from the citizen to the department, and eventually store it long-term that we could research that. And that whole process allows you to index, pull up documents. It makes documents easier to manage, easier to find, easier to locate, that type of thing.
Are there competitors of this company that might do it better or cheaper?
I would not recommend a competitor for local government. I think Laserfish is two things that it brings. One of it is it has the market share of local government document imaging. It's between them and one other company. But what makes them unique to our situation is they have a business relationship with our new ERP vendor. So they have some tight integration between our document manager and our ERP vendor. And that's where we initially purchased Laserfish, was part of our ERP project. And just to add on to that, the company that we've asked for a bid waiver, which is MCCI, they're the single largest vendor for local governments through Laserfish. Laserfish works through resellers, and we purchased their reseller, and once you work with a reseller, they recommend you stay with that reseller. But they have over 700 government clients, so we gain a lot of benefit from using this reseller because they have so many government clients, case studies, they have a lot of experience that we could leverage.
Do other municipalities in Northwest Arkansas use this system?
Yes.
Do you know which ones? Can you tell me?
Not off the top of my head. I've spent 18 years in Texas. I can give you probably 100 of them in Texas that currently use it.
Does Dallas use it?
Yes, they do.
Austin?
I'm not sure about Austin. City of Denton is a comparable size city to that. They have a case study on their website you could read right now that of the benefits of using Laserfish.
So we're not experimental here.
No, and I think that we're not experimental. That's not in using Laserfish, but we're also not experimental using this reseller because they are the single largest reseller in the government market. So as I mentioned before, it's nice when you talk to somebody and they come in to talk about maybe a payroll document, and they have significant experience, not just with payroll, but payroll in a government and local government entity.
Thank you.
Justin.
One thing, John, is Laserfish has a really good reputation in municipalities. They really do. And another thing that I like about the efficiency of this is the maintenance service support model that I think we're going to get with this. That can add a lot of value as we go down if that becomes less and less costly to fix things, to proactively maintain things. That's what I like too about this sort of thing. So thank you for looking for those things. A lot of people think maintenance contracts may be a waste of money, but in reality I think they proactively fix things sometimes and see things before it gets bad, and then also fix it quickly as opposed to having us tie up resources trying to fix something when the vendor can do it. So I'm confident that they can do it. So thanks for looking out for that.
And related to maintenance, we had an existing document imaging system, and the maintenance that we were spending with that company was approximately $37,000 a year, and we're expecting to spend in the neighborhood of $40,000 to $44,000. So this is not a huge jump from what we've been paying historically with our document imaging maintenance. And I think that we're getting a lot more for
with a lot better document output, basically.
In business, we have a saying: anything that needs doing and isn't done is more expensive than doing it. I suppose the same is true in government too. We need to fund what we need to fund.
Yes.
Anything else?
No, thank you.
All right. Number 3. In order to rezone that property described in rezoning petition RZN 15-5293 for approximately 36.25 acres located at 701 East Huntsville Road from RSF 4 residential single family 4 units per acre to CS Community Services, NC Neighborhood Conservation, and RA Residential Agricultural, and subject to a bill of assurance. Chairman.
This is a 36-acre parcel located at the southeast corner of Morningside Drive and Huntsville Road in southeast Fayetteville. It's currently zoned RSF 4, which is residential single-family 4 units per acre. The applicant submitted an application to the Planning Commission, which recommended approval of a rezoning. The request is to rezone the property to community services, a little under 3 acres at the very corner of the property. The balance of the property would be neighborhood conservation, which is a single-family zone, allowing up to 10 units per acre, about 31 acres of that, and then about approximately 2 acres of residential agricultural. The residential agricultural is subject to essentially basically being green space, open green space. Part of this site is within our Enduring Green Network, which is on our City Plan 2030. And so that portion of the property has been designated by the applicant as something they would not develop with the exception of roads, allowing roads to cross it in the future for future development. So that bill of assurance is attached with your packet. Planning Commission and staff found that this proposal was compatible with the surrounding mixture of residential and non-residential uses, as well as the range of densities. You have a senior living facility, single-family homes, and low and moderate density homes in this area. So we felt neighborhood conservation in particular was appropriate. The corner, obviously Huntsville Road is no longer the main thoroughfare. 15th Street is the state highway here, but it still does have quite a bit of traffic coming into the downtown area. And there's some historic non-residential commercial type uses just across the street here. So we felt this was an appropriate smaller type of development that would be appropriate in the area. So staff recommended approval, as did the Planning Commission, with a vote of 7-2.
Any questions, Dale? You got any calls on this or anything?
Haven't heard anything about it.
Okay. Any comments, questions? All right. Number 4, an ordinance to rezone that property described in rezoning petition RZN 16-5299 for approximately 3.4 acres located at 4170 West Martin Luther King Boulevard from RO Residential Office to UT Urban Thoroughfare. Jeremy.
This property is located in West Fayetteville off of Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. It's been before the Planning Commission or Council, I think 4 or 5 times, requesting rezonings, all of which were denied. The reason for that was that the majority of the zonings were either C1 or C2, strict commercial type zonings. The property was eventually rezoned to a residential office and developed as sort of an office complex allowing for limited commercial uses. The applicant again submitted a request for a C1 zoning district after consultation with staff and hearing some comments from the Planning Commission. At the Planning Commission meeting, they revised that request to urban thoroughfare. Staff did recommend, and the Planning Commission recommended approval of urban thoroughfare. Just to give a little context of where this site is, it's changed in terms of its character and nature, I think, or it will change. Rupel Road is being constructed adjacent to this property, essentially adjacent to this property, and will intersect Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard very near this property. So we do feel that the character of this area will change over time, and so with the City Plan 2035 update, which is coming in the next year or so, this is certainly an area that we'll be looking at with a greater detail to understand what types of land use changes might be coming. So we are recommending approval of this rezoning.
Jeremy, just again for our benefit, explain to us, what does C1 give them that urban thoroughfare does not give them?
Nothing.
So it's just, the names are synonymous?
In terms of the land uses, are virtually the same. Everything, actually, urban thoroughfare allows for more land uses than C1. The biggest difference is the form of development. Urban thoroughfare requires what's called a form-based type of development pattern, although this property is already developed. If the property were raised and removed, the buildings all removed, and they developed from scratch one day, they would develop in a different form than C1. C1 is a zone developed in the 1970s, I believe, here in the city. It requires a much larger setback. Generally, you see it along North College Avenue, for instance, where your parking's adjacent to the street and your building's set back further. Urban thoroughfare, the UT zoning that the applicant is requesting now, requires your building to be essentially reverse of that. Your building to be more in a pattern like you see. Right, exactly. So much like you see where we're sitting today, downtown area.
Thanks.
So not too much difference. Close. Anything else on that? Dale, you hadn't got any calls on that, have you? All right. Number 5. A resolution to express City Council's intent to consider proposals for the development and improvement of the city's 2.8-acre property at the southwest corner of West Avenue and Dixon Street currently used as the West Avenue parking lot. Jeremy?
A little history on this site. In the early 1990s, the city developed what you see today, a 290-space surface parking lot at the southwest corner of Dixon and West Avenue. The primary goal of which was to provide parking for the newly developed Walmart Center that opened in 1992, and also the reviving Dixon Street Entertainment District. The property was first developed in the 1880s as a grocery store, a wholesale grocery store. Lots of expansions, changes of ownership over time. It was operated as a grocer until 1968, so quite a while. Following its closure, the building was used for storage and transfer along the railroad. It eventually burned in the 70s, and in the 70s and 80s, the lot, which contained a portion of the Town Branch Creek traversing the site, became overgrown with vegetation, and according to some recent books that were published, was a place for, quote, unsavory characters and mischievous deeds, end quote.
I was here then, it was pretty mischievous.
Yeah, I was here.
After the Walmart Center was completed, the city made the decision to clear the site, fill it,
Interesting
and
area.
construct the parking lot. For those of you that were here, Dixon Street then was a very, very different place before the Walmart Center than it is today. The site today is much like it was developed in the 1990s. It contains 290 parking spaces, a large underground storm drain system. It's accessed via both Dixon Street and West Avenue. Along the western boundary, obviously, the still functioning Arkansas-Missouri Railroad, an active freight line and excursion passenger line, and then also the most recently developed Skull Creek Trail, part of the 36-mile Razorback Greenway. Most of you know the small stone grotto with the fish ponds. That was developed when the parking lot was constructed, actually. It was not always been there, using stones from the ruins of the Ozark Grocer building that was originally constructed. The water for that pond system is actually piped from across West Avenue. There's a spring system underneath the Walmart Center, and that's where the water originates, and that's where the water comes, and then it flows back down into Town Branch Creek. Obviously, as you all know, the site has been discussed very recently. It's the site of multiple festivals and outdoor performances throughout the year, the largest of which is the annual Bikes, Blues, and Barbecue. Parking today in this lot draws an annual revenue approximately $433,000 from daily paid parking tickets and event parking associated with the larger Walmart Center performances. Back in 2004, when we did a downtown master plan, this property was featured and discussed extensively during that development, which incorporated hundreds of citizens involved in that process. It was identified as a, quote, strategic location for infill development, with a parking garage and mix of uses lining the structure, end quote. Concepts were developed to complete the street edges along Dixon and West and to also create an urban street scene along the southern edge of the lot facing the Nadine Baum Studios. In 2007, the city went through a similar process as what we're talking about today, where a request for proposals for a public-private partnership to develop the subject property was proposed. There was a selection that was proposed and development agreement negotiated to construct 2 parking structures and a mixture of retail and commercial liner buildings. However, the construction of the development agreement did not pass our legal review test, so it eventually never even got to the city council. The recession hit about that time as well, and we really never heard back from those potential developers. In 2014 and 15, 2 major expansions impacting this property began. As you all know, the city broke ground on a 235-space parking deck serving the entertainment district, along with administrative office building replacement and expansion for the Walmart Center. And then last year, the Walmart Center began a $23 million expansion and renovation project of their own. The parking deck project was completed in October of last year, and the Walmart Center expansion and renovation is scheduled for completion at the end of this year. In December of 2015, the mayor's office communicated to the council that he would be bringing to you all a resolution of intent, which is what this is, to determine if you all are interested and willing to consider development proposals on the property. As you are aware, the opening of the Spring Street parking deck in October has provided additional parking capacity in the downtown entertainment district, and because of the successful completion of this important project in the Dixon Street area, the city has begun receiving renewed interest from multiple parties in the potential for redevelopment of that property. The mayor's office has spoken to a number of interested parties whose proposals vary dramatically, and I can say that honestly because I've been in most of those meetings, from very small scale, do very little to the parking lot, to very grand scale projects. A primary factor in all of those discussions, however, that the mayor's been consistent on is to not reduce the parking capacity. It's not simply to, now that we have the parking deck built, to replace that parking with the development. Rather, if it's to be developed in accordance with the adopted downtown master plan and continue to support the growing arts, entertainment, retail, and residential uses now occurring in our thriving downtown, proposals need to find a way to replace or expand or somehow deal with public parking in the downtown entertainment district area. The mayor decided to bring this item forward to you all to get your thoughts on the item early. After all, Dixon Street's influence and impact is greater than just the physical area. It affects all of us. It's our main street, the address we all know and love, and it's not just for Fayetteville citizens. It's for all those that visit here as well. And so, if you are interested in considering a private development proposal, we are recommending you pass this resolution of intent to begin that RFP process. We would write essentially an RFP and get it out on the street, advertise that nationally to get as many proposals as we could. A lot of questions would have to be answered, such as how parking is proposed to be replaced or enhanced, how the proposal fits with our downtown master plan, how festival and event venue space would be managed if this space was taken over for development, proof of financial feasibility, purchase or lease proposals, timetables for development, all of those things that we would want to understand and see in any successful proposal. We welcome you all's input at the council meeting on this process and certainly look forward to the public dialogue in the future of our downtown entertainment district.
Okay. So, what? Anybody? I think the one thing that I want to make clear is that, you know, y'all are the landlords of the properties. I mean, when we get into this sort of thing, and I would really appreciate your direction on which way you want us to go on this thing. So I want to bring this forward as a resolution of intent, and then if you all are not interested in any kind of development down there, that saves us all the time of going through all the processes. So I just kindly need to know, and you can think about it and weigh in on Tuesday. I mean,
And some of the issues would be, you want to develop it all, you want to look at, you
Piece.
want to only develop part of it,
yeah,
stuff like that,
Yeah.
that the mayor would like to hear,
Yeah.
and that and the chairman would like to know what you're interested about.
because we got several folks coming in wanting to develop in that area, and I want to be sure that it's done the right way. I don't, you know, yeah.
Well, and you're always gonna have people coming at you because that's the last piece of property
Mm-hmm.
really in the city that's even comparable to that. And I always start at, let's do nothing, because we don't have to, and we don't necessarily need to.
Make us money.
But if something comes along that changes my mind to, maybe we do need to, because it's in the best interest of the people, because it's their lot, technically, we're the landlords, but it's not mine, it's not yours, it's not anybody's. I'm sure that I may have taken the words out of your mouth there, but it's true. So we can't really do anything until we do something like this to even entertain
That's
the
right.
ideas that may be out there.
Yeah, you're exactly
So
right.
I'm hoping that's the intent. I think that
Well,
was the
that's
intent.
exactly the intent.
And if this is nothing more, I've had a couple of people call me and say,
Me too.
you know, you can't sell that. You can't sell that on Tuesday night. I'm like, whoa.
I've dealt with a few of those myself.
Time out. We're not selling anything. As a matter of fact, we can't even really listen to anything until such time as we do this resolution. It's a simple resolution
Yeah,
to possibly do something, maybe not.
or not,
Or not.
or not.
And I would agree with that. I think the outcomes of this are manyfold.
Right.
We may put an RFP on the street and not like anything we see.
Exactly.
We may find the perfect project and still not decide to go forward
Right.
for various reasons, or decide all the site could be developed, or portion of the site could be developed, or that we need to look at different parameters altogether. We simply didn't want to waste the time
Right.
to do all of that if you weren't all supportive of at least thinking about the idea, because it will take some staff time, certainly, and resources to put something like this together.
I get it totally. So I appreciate you bringing it.
You're welcome.
And
Almost- Go ahead.
I like the idea of putting out the RFP, so we don't want someone to say, well, I would have liked to have, I had an idea for that.
We're not,
So we're gonna put it out and
Yeah.
everyone can submit, which
right.
I like.
I'm not in a big hurry here.
No,
I've went
No
through plenty
reason.
down in that area, so, yes, John.
When real property's in question, the highest and best use is always an issue. And I think this process will bring us to a consensus of what the highest and best use of the property is. Is it a parking lot? Is it a retail space? Is it
Sure.
A
downtown
little bit
living?
of all of those?
Et cetera. So it's a good discussion to have.
Exactly right.
As you're well aware, I'm pro-development, but we do have people among us that will say a new roof means more runoff and bad for the streams. I mean, surely we can deal with those things. Surely private developers can deal with those things. That's why we pay engineers, is to manage runoff and manage water and things like that.
Well, John, that's just the kind of input I need from all of you on whatever side that you're on this thing, because we've had several people call in, and I just honestly need your input, and then we'll decide what we want to do, and away we go. Or if you don't want to do nothing, okay, but I just need to know.
Sounds good.
All right. Anything else on that? All right. Number 6, a resolution to approve a budget adjustment in the amount of $1,220,000 to fund the citywide 2016 employee compensation adjustment and to approve a certification pay plan for the sworn police personnel. Paul.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm going to handle a couple of things right now. First off, I'm going to talk a little about December sales tax that we just got today. We remember when we were drafting the 2016 budget, we did not include compensation plan. We agreed to talk about it at the end of the first quarter. The mayor has made his decision to recommend a plan. We're coming forward. We wait till now to, number one, look at what sales tax was for December, which is period 1 of 2016, to see what it looks like when we close the year, how last year performed, and then to look at a plan and a cost. So first I'll talk a little about December sales tax. I was very happy and pleasantly surprised to see that we were up 8% compared to last year. This is the second highest increase in sales tax I've seen since I've been here, and that's 10 years. Also, Springdale was up 9.75% for the period. So both of us were up, and we had a very, very strong collection compared to both budget and actual. We were up compared to budget 5.96% to what we had anticipated. When we look at it, actually, Rogers was up, but Rogers was up only 4%, so we performed much stronger than Rogers. Normally, Rogers does very, very well during the Christmas period in comparison to us, so we did excellent for the period. So going forward, this is a good start to the new year, and that's something that we were looking at to evaluate. Now let me talk a little about the compensation plan and the mayor's recommendation. There are two components to the plan that we're bringing forward. One is salary increases for existing personnel, and two, also a program for certificate pay for sworn officers in the police department. We're bringing those two together because they're both compensation plans that would carry forward. We'll talk about the pay plan first. The high points of the plan are it would provide for a step for sworn personnel and uniformed in the fire department. They proceed along steps. Those steps are an average of 4%. Now that's an average, but that is not how it actually comes out when you calculate it, because there are even dollar amounts for each step. So someone receiving a step that's early in that category, such as a patrolman or a sergeant, would receive a higher percentage than someone with longevity. So it doesn't come out to exactly 4%, but it averages 4%. That average, when we calculate it this year, would be 3.7% for the sworn personnel who are paid by step. The mayor's plan has always been to keep the merit employees in sync with the uniformed personnel. So what we would do would be create merit pools to be allocated to the departments where the department or division heads and the department heads would look at the merit performance of the individuals and then allocate those salaries on merit considerations. So that would be 3.7% on average. So going forward with that, we'll take a look at what this means to us. And I got a very quick slide presentation. It'll be painless. First, we're going to look at the general fund operations and how it comes in. These are forecasts. There's still adjustments coming in, but in the general fund, our revenues were $41.2 million last year, expenses $39.6. So we had an operating surplus of $1.6 million. Now, remember, that's $1.6 million surplus. That's after we already covered the salary increases for last year, which were $985,000. So we had a very good year. We had a good year for revenue last year, and that's how we closed out last year. So that's the operating results for the general fund. The other funds also had surpluses associated with them, water and sewer, the Parks Development Fund, etc. So last year was a very good operating year for the city of Fayetteville, and I'll talk a little bit more about that at the council meeting next Tuesday night. The impact for 2016 on the general fund would be $819,000 in 2016. Those are the other funds and how they're affected. Total cost of this program citywide would be $1.2 million. In 2016, a full year's impact would be roughly $1.6 million, a little over $1 million in the general fund. So that would be the impact to the various funds if, in fact, you approve the mayor's plan. Kevin, you want to go on to the next. Now, the general fund, we always look at and say, where would the general fund's fund balance be at the end of 2016 based on current projections if, in fact, this plan is approved. So the general fund balance as we close 2015 is estimated to be $15,750,000. First, we have to take all of the carryovers that you approved during the month of January and subtract those out. That would be $1.3 million. Then we subtract out the pay plan for 2016 of $819,000. We get an adjusted fund balance, and we subtract out the 60-day required reserves that we keep on hand in case of fiscal problems. That would give us an estimated adjusted fund balance at the end of 2016, if all projections for revenue expenses hold true now, of $7 million. Kevin, to the next. So I want to look at the significant considerations that I think the high points that you should consider when looking at this plan. General fund operating surplus in 2015 was $1.6 million. Now, roughly $800,000 of that comes from expenditure, spending less than budgeted, or good control by management. So usually we have some savings there, and the other $800,000 came from increased revenue. And that, again, is after paying for the salary increases that we looked at during the first quarter of 2015. The impact on the plans of the general fund would be $820,000, roughly ongoing cost, a little over $1 million to 2017. Now, sales tax alone is going to pay for this in 2016. We would need to increase by 3.2% over the 2015 collections. First month, we were up 7.8% over the 2015 collections for the December period. This is the first time in the last 5 years I've been able to say it looks like there's a good chance that we can pay for this salary increase with current year revenues, with certainty, because it's very possible we'll have 3.2% increase. We have averaged about 2.5% over the last 10 years. The last 5 years have been a little better than that, but I think it's very, very possible that we'll get enough of the revenue increase in sales tax to pay for these salary increases. Now, why is that important? That's important because, as you all remember, for the last 5 years, we have been requesting a compensation plan based on revenues catching up to expenditures. It looks like we're finally at that point where revenues have caught up with expenditure increases. That's why I'm very hopeful that next year, when we discuss the 2017 budget, and we'll begin discussions in September, but in November we'll be at the peak of those discussions, that we can also present what the mayor's salary plan would be at that point in time. Now, that plan wouldn't go into effect until the next April, but you'd be looking at a plan that would include the salary increases. I know several of you council members have asked why and when would we get to the point that we can include a salary package when we look at the comprehensive budget. I believe we're finally at that point, barring any catastrophic things happening this year. Like I said, we don't know which direction the economy will go. Hopefully, it will continue to be good for us, but we always have to be prepared for declines if, in fact, that happens. I think we're in a very, very good position for fund balance in case we have a decline in revenue, and certainly we'll be more than happy if we have an increase in revenue. So that's the salary portion of the plan. Now, when it comes to the certificate pay for police, we've costed that out. Essentially, the certificate plan would pay officers who have attained state certificates, and there are 5 certificates available given, and they are related to their performance as police officers and education relating to that. Each of those certificates, an officer who completed would get $25 a month extra. So an officer could get up to, I said there was 5, we won't reimburse for the basic, we'd reimburse for up to 4. So each officer who completed all of those could get an extra $100 per month. The cost of that's roughly $77,000, and we feel that we have sufficient funds in the police budget to accommodate that at this point in time. The reason this is coming forward at this point in time is, again, it's compensation for an overall compensation package. The police chief has shared with us, with the mayor, that during his recruitment process of hiring people for the new patrol, feels he's at a competitive disadvantage because the surrounding areas do pay for certificate pay, and in fact, we're the only city of our size that does not reimburse for this certificate pay. So he felt this was very important for recruiting, since we're recruiting at the same pool here in Northwest Arkansas. And Mike Reynolds is here. Mike, you want to say a few words about this?
Good afternoon. The chief couldn't be here today, but I'll try to do my best. I think Paul's done an excellent job of explaining what we're requesting here. The Arkansas Commission on Law Enforcement Standards and Training offers 5 certificates to law enforcement officers. They have a basic certificate, a general certificate, an intermediate certificate, an advanced certificate, and a senior certificate. As Paul mentioned, they're all based upon a combination of experience, training, and college. And in your packets, CLES provides what's called an S-15. It outlines all the requirements. And I'll just give you one example for like the intermediate certificate, so the middle certificate. The minimum requirement for that is 6 semester hours of college English, a minimum of 4 years of law enforcement experience, and several hours of training for you to obtain that certificate. As Paul mentioned as well, all municipal law enforcement agencies in the state of similar size, with the exception of Conway, offer some type of certificate pay program. And an attachment that outlines those cities and the pay that they offer is also included in your packet as well. Late last year, Washington County Sheriff's Office, they brought forward an ordinance through the Quorum Court to pass a certificate pay program as well. And last month, the Rogers Police Department brought forward a college educational payment program as well. So as Paul mentioned, our proposal is to offer $25 a month for each certificate achieved beyond the basic certificate. And so the maximum available that an officer who possesses all certification levels would be $100 a month or $1,200 a year, which is approximately the average of all those law enforcement agencies that we list in your packet. Some of them are higher, some of them are lower. I think the low end is $15 per certificate, and the high end is $60 per certificate. As Paul mentioned, the Chief does feel very strongly that a certificate pay program will keep us competitive in our local market and also provide us with a resource for recruiting and retaining a well-educated and professional workforce. I appreciate y'all's consideration. Be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
What questions do we have?
You mentioned the high end was $60 or $75. Is anybody in Northwest Arkansas paying that high end?
No, sir. I think
Would 25 be the highest being paid in Northwest Arkansas?
that is correct. Yes, sir.
Good.
That's per certificate, max of 4 certificate.
I think it pays big dividends to have the most professional police force here. We have not been hit with one excessive force case that sometimes can cost the city lots and lots of money. That has not happened. Many factors are involved in that, including good training and leadership, but also in being able to provide enough compensation that you do get the highest quality people. So I think that in the long run, really pays dividends to do something like this.
And I am happy to report, we recently did a study internally just to see where we were educational-wise. We have 127 allocated officer positions, and of those 127, 61 of our officers have a college education, a degree. 3 of those are masters and 1 Juris Doctorate degree of those 61. So we're proud of that, and we'd like to see that increased.
Right.
Absolutely.
I
So,
We
certainly
have a
would.
lawyer on the force.
Yes.
Well, let's not hold that against them.
Yeah, that's right.
I would certainly be in favor of this, and if for no other reason, the recruiting factor.
That's
I
right,
think is
Dylan.
very important. We want to be able to get the very best when we go out there.
Glad you brought that up. That's something that we really focus on with
Yeah.
CALEA, the Commission on Law Enforcement Accreditation. We bring that up all the time, and when we go in front of the CALEA board, they always ask us, where are your demographics? How does your workforce match your demographics? And what are you doing to try to increase that so it's a reflection of your community? And there's several things that we have done and that we brought forward and told you all about as well. Whether it's attending multicultural events, job fairs. Recently, we came out with a recruiting video.
Yep.
And compensation is part of that recruitment as well. So we, once again, just appreciate your consideration.
Okay. All right. Anything else on that? What about the budget as, the compensation plan as a whole? Any questions on that? Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. Number 7, an ordinance to amend 164.19C of the Federal Code to remove the 5,000 square foot minimum lot area requirement for an accessory dwelling unit.
Well, this really shouldn't be on this agenda. Originally, it was going to be brought directly to the city council, but in conjunction with the planning department, Alderman Petty decided to go to planning commission first. That's where it's at. We were discussing it last night. It still has some more work maybe to be done on it. And so this just needs to be off the agenda until we get what is going to be recommended by the planning commission.
Okay.
Sorry. You have anything you want to add
Read it.
on that?
Nope.
Okay.
All right. So we just take it off.
That's just off the agenda.
Just take it off. Okay. All right. All right. The next item is City Council agenda session presentations. We have agenda session presentation, recycling and trash update for recycling pilot projects. Brian Pugh. Brian?
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. See if I can pop back up.
Oh,
Guess you'll have to slide to the side.
all right.
While that's warming up, I timed out this presentation at about 20 minutes, so I'm going to try to read through it. If I could get you guys to hold your questions until the end.
We'll hold the applause to the end.
Well, hold the applause too, that'd be great. I'm going to try to get through this quickly so I don't take all night to do this. So.
And Brian, would you mind sending out this information to us? I don't think we had it in a packet.
Sure.
Okay.
Would you want this as PowerPoint?
Maybe
Okay.
something that I can refer to when people are asking, because this pilot project is certainly generating a lot of discussion.
Okay, sure. Sure. Yes, thank you, Susan. We do have information about the pilot on our website.
Right.
When you go to the recycling and trash collection page, on the right-hand side, you'll see a link to the master plan.
Right.
It's got a picture. Click that. It'll take you to information about the master plan, but it will also take you to information about the food waste pilot and the single stream pilot.
But we're going to get an update on some actual data here.
We are, yes.
That's what I'm looking for.
Yes, so. Okay. Is this on? There we go. Okay, so I'm going to start off with just some basic information. In 2015, the city sent 72,166 tons of waste to the Eco Vista landfill. The cost to the city to dispose of that waste was $2,511,330. The current contract rate for disposal with the city with waste management is $35.58. Last year in 2015, that cost was $34.80. So we did have a 3.5% increase at the end of the year. Waste continues the cost of waste and cost to handle that waste continues to rise. The city recycles 6,074 tons, which I've been here since 2002, and this is the first year that we have recycled over 6,000 tons. So it was a milestone for the city. Had a revenue stream of $521,581, and that was in a down commodity year. These prices for commodities are depressed right now, and we're experiencing some down markets, but we still made over $500,000. The avoided disposal value was $375, and that's just taking that disposal cost and multiplying it by the tonnage, for a total diversion value of $732,956. So that means that each ton of waste recycled had a value of $120.67. So as a city, we can either pay to dispose of a ton of waste at $35.58, or we can receive a value back to the city of $120.67 based on 2015 numbers. So to address these issues that happen year after year, the city adopted a goal of 80% diversion rate with Resolution 260-13. Resolution 260-13 passed with an 8-0 council vote, so it was unanimous that we could move in this direction. Kessler Consulting out of Tampa, Florida, was hired to develop the master plan with Resolution 171-14. The amendment, an amendment to the contract to allow for 2 pilot programs was approved with Resolution 136-15. And the 2 pilot programs that were agreed about were the food waste composting pilot and the single stream pilot. Come on. There we go. Oops, that's the wrong one. There we go. Okay, so the food waste composting pilot began on January 20th. It was approved through ADEQ for a 90-day pilot period with an additional 90 days if no odors or issues occurred. We did have our inspector come out today and look at our operation, and he didn't have any issues with what we were doing, so we are going to go ahead and apply for that additional 90 days to keep this pilot going all the way through July. There are 9 participants providing over 3 tons of waste of organic material. Staff has received training on a modified static aerobic composting method and is monitoring and constructing rows in the pilot. Staff has been trained on the use of the enzymes to speed up the composting process. So as of today, our total food waste intake was 13.82 tons. Food waste collections take place 3 times a week on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. After each collection, the food waste is processed on a compost pad. It is mixed, and you can kind of follow along at the bottom here of what that looks like. Up at the top right corner, you see the incoming food waste, what that looks like, and then the process across the bottom with those pictures. So the material is mixed with ground up yard waste and mulch to make a mixture that has averaged 4.84 yards to 1 yard of food waste. That includes the daily cap of unscreened compost. On Fridays of each week, the week's collections are combined. 5 gallons of enzymes, which the enzymes you see are on the bottom right. That bucket, that recycling bin there, that's the enzymes, are added to the pile and a final cover is applied. Contamination is monitored at the time of collection and at the time of processing. Contaminated food waste found at the collection point is refused, and if found at the processing site is documented as necessary. Odor is monitored daily and documented. Temperatures are checked daily at 4 points and at 4 depths on each row. In less than 10 days' time, we are seeing temperatures reach the desired 131 degrees at a depth of 36 inches. Documented information on each row is shared with Kessler Consulting each week so that we can be advised of changes if they are necessary. So the expected outcomes that we wanted to get from this pilot were to provide data that allows for accurate cost model if program is adopted citywide, to apply for a permit change with ADEQ to allow food waste to be brought into the site permanently, increase diversion rate through composting of organics currently going to the landfill, and then commercial collection would be the main focus with residential collection added in future years. On our single stream pilot, pre-pilot data was collected pertaining to participation rate, volume of set-outs, and collection cost data. Utility bill stuffers and postcards were mailed out several weeks before the start date of February 18th. Carts were distributed to pilot participants on Saturday, February 13th, and we're doing about 1,000 homes, just shy of 1,000 homes in southeast Fayetteville. Education included the utility bill stuffer, postcard, brochure on the cart, and instructions on accepted materials on the lid. So I brought examples of this. This was the utility bill stuffer that went out in our utility bill mail out several weeks before. There's a nice big postcard with information about this to the residents that went out to those participants a couple of weeks before. These brochures were attached to the cart, the handle of the cart, and it has all the information pertaining to what we are doing, why we are doing it, all that information about how to set out your carts, where to set it next to your trash carts, all that information. Also has information on the back with detailed information about what we want put into the carts and how we want them to do that. And then the sticker that I have here, this goes on the top lid of the cart. So when you actually physically lift up that lid, you are looking at this sticker so you can see what materials go into the cart. Some of the first week stats that we did the first collection, obviously on Thursday. Pre-pilot average set-outs were 444 set-outs out of that approximately 1,000 homes. So basically 45% set-out rate. The single stream pilot for the first week, we got 664 set-outs for a 67% set-out rate. And that's to be expected whenever you do a new program and you advertise it and you give people new carts, that you would see a bump. It'll be interesting to see how that is maintained over the 3 months of the pilot. The pre-pilot average tons collected in that route was 2.1 tons. We got 4 tons of materials from the single stream collection. The pre-pilot average time to service a household with our current curb sort program was 1 minute, with the single stream is 7 seconds. The pre-pilot time to service neighborhood, we have to use 2 recycling trucks to service this 1,000 homes. So when you add those times together, it was 12 hours and 15 minutes to service that area of town With the single stream collection, it was 5 hours and 2 minutes. So the expected outcomes that we wanted to get were to analyze collection costs of a switch to single stream citywide, determine through weekly reports any increase in recycling tonnage. Weekly report will include a breakdown of materials recycled, prices paid for materials, end markets for materials, and contamination information. This is hard to see, but if you look on the left-hand side, that is the copy of the first report that we got from Harmon Recycling. It lists out the commodities and what was recovered. So cardboard was 24%, and this really surprised me. Newspaper was 20%. The mixed paper was 16%. That kind of goes against what we've been seeing as a national trend with newspaper going down. But it was very interesting. Let me back up just for a second. The materials that you see here, I didn't mention this before, but on the top right, that is what the materials looked like when they were offloaded at the Harmon Recycling Center, all those mixed together. Across the bottom is what they looked like when they were sorted. So we have pop bottles on the left, we have whole glass containers that made it through the collection process and tipping process without being broken. We have a Gaylord box of fresh, clean newspaper that was recovered, and then that last bale on the right bottom is a bale of mixed paper.
Hey Brian, before you move that, if you notice too, because I was there when they dumped that load, those unbroken bottles there, the only place we really had a lot of crushed glass in that stream was at the front of the truck where it was repetitively pushed by the packer, but no more than a foot back in that, we were actually seeing bottles that were unbroken. So we also think that possibly we didn't load the truck to the max. We can prevent a lot of glass breakage in that and get more whole glass out there. But it was a large amount of that came out that way.
With the boxes and the paper and the plastics and everything, they actually kind of cushioned a little bit of that glass, so he's exactly right. When a typical trash truck will weigh about 10 to 12 tons full of waste, we brought that in, it was just shy of 4 tons. And it was packed out full, so that's the difference between the two different types of collections. So back to this report, when you look at the breakdown of what was recovered, out of that 8,000 pounds that were delivered to Harmon, 7,410 pounds were recovered for a 93% rate of recovery, and there was, what was that, 590, I believe, pounds that were actually rejects or residue, so it had a 7% rate of residue or rejection. What you see on the top picture is the residue rejection pile. So it's a lot of plastic bags, some aseptic packaging, some normal trash items in there as well. So it's just a little mixture of everything. Kyle McCarty is here. Kyle, raise your hand. He's the operations manager. Thursday morning he went out with one of the other supervisors and actually started looking through the carts, about 100 carts, and there was only a couple that had trash in it. The rest of them were good, clean, sorted recyclables. So we were very pleased with the first week's collection efforts. We are also planning to do a single stream pilot for multifamily. The Cliffs 2, which is basically the south side of the Cliffs off the crossover, and the Academy at Frisco are the two pilot locations being tested for the multi-family pilot. We don't have any pictures on this yet because this hasn't started yet, so what we plan to do is keep collecting pre-pilot data on existing waste tonnage. We're currently developing educational brochures to be used in the two different pilot participants. The Cliffs will use dumpsters next to their current dumpster locations for trash. We find that that's more convenient for people. If they're actually going to take their waste out, they have an option there to place it. The Frisco has a chute system, which is pretty unique, and should be very accommodating to putting together a single-stream pilot program. So every floor in that facility, you can take your waste to a room and put it down a chute. And there's 3 chutes in that room. So we're going to have 2 labeled landfill, and then we're going to have 1 labeled with our recycle something education material, and they'll be able to put that material down 1 chute, and we'll keep it separated that way. Material is estimated at 2 tons a week going to Harmon Recycling. Education includes brochures, signage on dumpsters, and posters in trash rooms. We are also going to use indoor bins or bags at Frisco. So we'll be able to test those out with that system. And then residents are encouraged to provide feedback through SurveyMonkey. This is also something that we are doing with the single-stream residential program. We have that set up, and we're not going to turn it on until March 20th because we wanted people to go through the process for a little bit before they give us their feedback. So we plan on doing another educational push to remind people to go and do that SurveyMonkey about midway through the pilot. But we will have a separate SurveyMonkey set up for the multifamily folks as well. The expected outcomes for this are the same as what you would find in the residential. Analyze the collection cost of a switch to single stream citywide. Determine through weekly reports any increase in recycling tonnage. Because we do collect recycling at the cliffs currently, so we have that to base against. And then we'll look at those weekly reports and see what's recycled, what the prices were, and where those materials went and the contamination rates. There was also some recent letters to the editor and an FOI request that have questioned the integrity of the master plan process, and we felt that those questions needed to be addressed. So this was a statement from the letters to the editors on January 17th of this year. It was entitled Trashing Money and Resources. It says the city of Fayetteville spent over $200,000 taxpayer on a study from Florida-based Kessler Consulting. The study recommended Fayetteville change from the clean segregated recycling collection program that currently provides free manufacturers with materials they can use. The Kessler study recommended we move to single stream. They went on to say a few more things there, but I need to make it clear to everybody that Kessler has not finished their study, and therefore there has been no recommendation of switching to single stream. The only body that can make that determination is the City Council. So we felt that it was something that we needed to get out there because there's a perception that we've made our minds up and we're moving this direction. The only thing we are doing is gathering data so you can make that determination. Also in that same letter to the editor, it said, seems odd that the City Council voted October 2nd to spend $3 million on office renovations for the 15th Street Solid Waste and Recycling Facility before the single stream pilot has commenced. How do they know future office needs when they won't know what their operational building or staff needs are until after the 90-day single stream pilot? They won't have pilot results until May or later. Has everything already been decided, and is the pilot just a charade? Obviously, the pilot is not a charade. It is being conducted to develop the data mentioned earlier in the presentation. And also, expanded facilities are needed to accommodate the staffing needs that currently exist and will not change even if the city does decide to move to single stream collection. The same amount of supervisor positions will remain, only the duties of employees doing collection and processing would be altered. One of the questions that was in that letter to the editor and also in the FOI was, what is the city being paid for each item collected in the recycling program? So this is a breakdown of what we are currently being paid as of today. When it says P&P yellow sheet, that's the pulp and paper yellow sheet. It's official board markets industry publication that prices fiber bales. So I have an agreement with a broker that will pay me $15 over the Southwest Region High side. So when you look at that publication that comes out each month, go to the Southwest Region, go to corrugated cardboard, take the high side and add $15 to it. So currently we're getting paid $95 a ton. Newspaper, pretty much the same. We have a premium of $25 over high side, so $80 a ton. Mixed paper, we don't have a premium on that, so we're getting paid $50 a ton. Aluminum cans, just shy of 52 cents was on our last load, and that's way down to what it used to be. Steel cans is just shy of 3 cents per pound. The pop bottles, PET bottles, a little over 8 cents per pound. And the milk jugs, the HDPE bottles, were a little over 26 cents a pound. And we do not receive any revenue for glass. Second question is, where can I find information on what it costs to run the drop-off centers? And our answer was, our current tracking methods do not separate curbside pickup versus drop-off versus composting. Task Order 4, the Solid Waste Reduction, Diversion, and Recycling Master Plan scope of work includes a cost analysis of the programs. The contract and scope of work can be viewed on the Master Plan web page, which is what I showed you at the beginning of the presentation. When that task is done by our consultant, we will be glad to share that information about that cost. What does it cost to run the curbside program? The R.W. Beck study in 2008 determined that the cost for curbside recycling was $5.88 per household. We recently, if you guys will remember, we had some University of Arkansas students replicate the formula that was used in determining the cost of service. So now we have that spreadsheet that we can plug into each year. We had to wait till all the records for 2015 were in. We plugged those numbers in. The cost to service to each per household is $5. So you're probably sitting there thinking, well, why has that gone down? 2008, 2009, we had about 18,100 homes. Currently, we have about 22,000 homes. So we have a much broader base to spread that cost out over. When you look at the revenue that was received from the commodity sales and the cost avoidance and add that in, that net cost of service goes down to $3.59 per household. The revenue we see from each program separately. Revenue for each program involves detailed analysis because the curbside, the apartment, the public space container programs, when we collect those materials, we have multiple materials collected cumulatively, while at the drop-offs and our paper dumpster program and our commercial cardboard and our commercial glass, those are all collected separately, so we know exactly what we're getting when we do those collections. So it's a little tricky to determine what those revenues are for each different program, but to give you an example, our drop-off revenue for 2015 was $56,909. Our curbside revenue was estimated at $265,946. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about was our education program with our Recycle Something Education and Marketing campaign, which won the 2015 Envy Award through ADEQ, which is the state's premier environmental stewardship award. We won that for our education and marketing campaign. This utilizes an educator position for 20 hours per week in a contract agreement with Boston Mountain Solid Waste District. Our education position conducts solid waste related education programs for youth in public and private schools and the University of Arkansas, including tours. The position also conducts adult education through civic group presentations and technical recycling assistance, like in apartment complexes and commercial glass recycling participants. We had, on the marketing side, we utilize print media, a smart car, commercials for both television and movies, websites, printed materials, promotional items, and social media. And so we have a picture here of Justin Taylor. Justin is our educator. He and Liz Hill are the two people that have been in this position. And Liz and Justin in 2015, presented and led discussions of education programs that reached approximately 1,694 adults and 1,384 children. Some programs were geared towards both adults and children and reached 679 people. The programs are designed to be fun, engaging, and set the state school curriculum standards where appropriate. In 2015, there were 74 presentations given, which averaged one presentation every 3.5 days. The contract with Boston Mountain for this position is cost-effective and is changing behaviors and attitudes towards more sustainable practices. So you see Justin here interacting with a group of students on the top left. On the bottom right, he's actually performing a waste audit with the new school, which I know waste audits were one of the things that several council members suggested that they wanted to see more of. But he has a wide range of programs focusing on waste reduction, recycling, and composting, and some new programs that challenge the students to rethink their perceptions of waste and how we use our resources. He also does waste audits and tours of the landfill, transfer station, and household hazardous waste drop-off. The programs are designed to help teachers fulfill state curriculum standards along with showing good behavior models. And with that, that's the end of the show. So I'll entertain any questions you guys have.
All right, what questions have you got? Dylan?
I just want to say that's a great report, and I'm so happy to get that first week. I've been watching very closely and taking lots of questions. I'm wondering if there's any way that you can get that report in the newspaper. I would like for, I think it would help us with the questions we're getting from constituents,
Okay.
and as well as some seemingly completely baseless kind of information, you know, declaring certain things like there's no way that we're going to have an uncontaminated stream and all that. And I think if our community could see the kind of statistics you presented, I think it would answer a lot of questions for us. And I'll be anxious to have the report as well. But I think if we could get it in the newspaper, get it out to the public, it would be great.
We will definitely try. I think we'll get
Yeah.
with the paper and see if we can make that happen.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
Is it possible to tell what the diversion rate is along the route?
The diversion rate for, like, the
The
difference
proportion collected recyclables, the total waste that's collected even on the trash truck?
Yes, yeah, so we have that information. I think, yeah, so, yeah, we'll figure that information and get it to you.
Thanks.
Yep. Yep. Because we've been keeping up with the amount of waste that's being collected.
Yeah.
I thought I had that written down, but I guess I didn't.
Okay.
But yeah, we can get that for you.
I assume this whole report's going to be available to the council, correct?
It will be, yes.
Okay. Yeah, John?
Brian, in a previous discussion, Don Moore, our Chief of Staff, mentioned that you guys were visiting with Walmart about packaging. How are those conversations going? What are we doing?
I haven't had any discussions with Walmart for probably over a year and a half now.
All right, so what was Don referring to?
We had actually been doing some work with them where they were asking us for what we see in our recycling collections, what type of packaging we keep getting in those bins that we keep having to reject. We were keeping that information with our, talking with our drivers and seeing what was in those bins and detailing that information and passing that along to them. So that was the kind of information that we were working with them on packaging. They were looking at a recycling program from a municipal standpoint that did that curb sort program and what they could see on a daily basis in those bins.
Okay. One thing I noticed in your presentation, in the single stream recycling, we had a 7% reject rate of what was single
Contamination.
stream. What is our reject rate in curbside sorting? How's that
Less than
compare?
1%.
Less than 1%. So we're increasing our rejection rate by several hundred%.
It would be from 1% to 7% based on the first week. But
Well, the increase is 6 times or 7 times. So
that's
it's a
to be
700%
that's to be
increase.
expected with a single stream collection. You will have contamination.
But the big question is how much goes in diversion? That's the question we're looking for.
Well, I want to compare what we have now to what we're talking about, what the proposal is, and let's look at the whole thing. Certainly, any system we go to is going to have advantages and disadvantages of what we have now. So I want to give our citizens a holistic picture of what we're, just kind of like marriage. You can't marry someone and she doesn't be Mr. Perfect and Miss Perfect. A person has strengths and weaknesses, and marriage is the art of learning to live with each other's weaknesses. And we're fixing to marry, sounds like, a single-stream recycling program.
I think
Perhaps.
we're just dating.
Yeah, we're dating.
We're dating.
Okay, we're
That's
dating.
the point, yeah.
Okay, good.
That will be your decision.
So let's get a holistic view of who this girl is, or who this guy is.
But if you only look at half of the picture, you're not getting a holistic view.
I agree.
It's my
I agree.
understanding, right?
So,
You have to look at the amount that's being diverted.
yeah, so we,
Okay.
on average, going back to the presentation, on average in our pilot program, our pre-pilot data showed that we were getting 2.1 tons on average from that area. After the first week, we got 4 tons. So yes, it went from 2.1 to 4, and you went from less than 1% to 7% contamination at the same time. So you'll have to figure out if that's the system that you want to live with.
Well,
There's one element of variation, potential variable, citywide, and that's that rate was actually determined by our personnel, that set out rate and those residuals left behind. So in this case, that lesser than 1%, that can vary throughout the city and can be greater in other areas.
Yeah.
so there's bias in that rate.
Well, there's a variation, there's potential variation, yes.
So, potential for bias.
The
Okay.
difference in this is in that particular area, knowing we were doing a pilot, we're trying to take out any variables possible. So we very closely monitor that, and that is, we know that's 1%. Throughout the city, based on what we have, different areas put out different things. It's, no two neighborhoods are the same. So when we go in there, we're not guessing it's a lot higher, but it could be 2 or 3%. We don't know. That's an estimate. When we've estimated before, we estimated somewhere between 2 and 5% possibly. So if we was on the low side, then it's a 5% increase in going into the waste stream out of that. Going from 7 now and the method we're testing versus the low side of what we were previously estimating. The 1% is we absolutely measured, picked up everything and measured it and weighed all of it, so we have a precise number about just less than 1%, where we don't have that over the rest of the city.
All right, let's be clear about something. If we're going from, say, 3% reject rate in curbside to 7% in single stream, that's not a 4% increase. That is over a 100% increase. That's about 150% more that we have. We're going up maybe 4 points in the percentage, but the percent of increase is much higher than 4%.
Yeah.
We need to be clear about that.
And vice versa, though.
Right.
The amount of the tonnage that we're getting, we've got close to 100% increase in what extra we're recycling also.
All right.
Get us closer to that goal.
And let me point this out too. If we're saying that our sampling is biased in the curbside, we said it was 1% or less than 1%, and now we're saying, well, that could vary up to 2 or 3%. We might make the same argument with the 7%. Maybe that was a biased reject rate there. Because if we're trying to arrive at a pre-drawn conclusion and looking for evidence to support our conclusion, we might have that bias in there.
That's not our intent.
That's not the intent. I want to make that perfectly
Okay.
clear. I mean, from the get-go is we're looking at a method to give the most detailed information possible so y'all can make the best informed decision when we go. We have no bias on whichever way we want. We did not direct our consultant to go any direction. The only thing we gave them in any shape or form is that our council approved 8-0 to do 80% recycling if at all possible, and that's the goal we gave them to try and obtain. So to obtain that, everything possible, construction and debris and food waste, anything multifamily, anything and everything that they could bring to the table to increase us towards that 80% is what we wanted them to provide us. And going with these 2 pilots, we came back to you and asked to expand to that due to they felt like that would give us the best information to return to you. So that's where we are. There's no direction given there, and the facts will be just what they are. And if we can look at it and interpret it anyway, and they'll give a comprehensive report at the end that y'all will be able to make your most informed decision on. That's where we're
If we get to the end of this and you guys decide not to go to single stream, we'll implement whatever program you want us to implement.
Mr. Mayor?
Does anybody else, hang on, John, does anybody else got any questions on this? Okay, John, go ahead.
Well, in the interest of knowing who we're dating, can I get a tour of the Harmon facility?
Sure.
Can I just show up anytime? I gotta get an appointment.
They are a private company, so they need to have you check in
Check in.
and get your personal protective equipment
Okay.
and be led into their facility. So they
And
don't
is
want
that
public
just,
showing.
I can get that tour because I'm on city council? Can any citizen get that tour?
It needs to
check
be
in?
scheduled.
What?
It needs to be scheduled with them, but we can make that happen.
Okay.
And if you're gonna schedule that too, and you wanna actually see what we're doing there, that's only on Thursdays.
Yeah, good point.
And it'll be somewhere around noon. If you wanna see like that pile of trash there, they dump it in a particular area. They get it that day, and then they sort it through the rest of that day. So only on a Thursday are you gonna see anything they're doing relating to what we
Okay.
are asking them to do.
Oh.
Sure.
Any other day, they're doing recycling for other Walmart or other companies.
I noticed also in your presentation, you said no revenue is gained from glass. What
Yes.
happens to our glass? Where does it go?
It goes to Kansas City, to a company called Ripple Glass,
Who pays for the freight to get to Kansas City?
and Ripple Glass does.
So so they're hauling it all for us for free?
Yes, sir.
So there's our cost savings?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And,
Also, the cost savings of every ton that we
Yeah.
send out there, we're not paying to take to the landfill.
Right.
So we actually are making something.
okay, so will Kansas City accept glass coming from a single stream?
They prefer not to,
They
but
prefer
they
not to?
do, they prefer not to.
But they will
do.
take it?
They do take it currently from the facility in Little Rock, which is a single stream facility.
Okay.
That glass at the single stream facility in Little Rock is hand sorted,
Hand sorted?
hand sorted.
Are we hand sorting our glass?
Well, currently, we do in our curb sort program, yes.
Okay, but does our single stream proposal envision hand sorting?
No. So what you would see in a true single stream operation would not typically be hand sorting of glass. It would be using equipment like shakers. I've seen some things that are actually pretty cool called paper magnets, where it's basically a vertical wall and the paper goes up and it hits that, and it's a suction mechanism that will suck the paper to the conveyor, go up and over and separate the paper out, and then all the residual stuff is shaken out of that. So there's systems out there that can recover glass without hand sorting.
So would it be fair to say that if we go through the single stream recycling process, there's a good chance that Kansas City wouldn't accept our glass?
I don't know what the percent chance would be. We would have to,
Better than 50-50?
we would have to, it would depend on the facility where the materials are being processed, and if there is state-of-the-art equipment in there that is set up to handle glass. Some of those systems can get pure glass up to about 95%. Then they would accept that. But those systems are costly, so it'd be up to the
Yeah,
process.
that's not an answer we can give you because we don't have a contract with who
Yeah.
would be accepting that in the future. We don't have any knowledge of what and how much they would invest there, but I mean, there is sorters for that glass where they can literally not only separate the glass, they can separate the color from the green, from the brown, from the clear. By literally blowing it off, it can optically tell what the color of that glass is, and it can separate that glass as it goes up the conveyor belt. If they put in that type of system, it's going to be much cleaner than it is something that's not that futuristic.
We're saying they, I mean Kansas City?
Meaning whoever that invests in the type of sorting facility we need to take our material, you know, whoever sorts that. If they invest in a $35 million plant here that is state-of-the-art in every way of sorting this material, the cleaner it will be, so the more likely your commodity prices will remain high, and you will also be able to market more of the materials.
Well, Terry, I'm confused. I thought we did the sorting. Now you're talking about the other
We do
company?
the sorting in our current facility. If we look at a single stream model down the road, hopefully we will have someone at a private company that would build a sorting facility similar to Waste Management's facility in North Little Rock, and they do the sorting. If we build that, we would be investing upwards of $10 million for a sorting facility. So it becomes then a joint public-private, venture that we can save the money by not putting in the space in the landfill, by not putting in there, recycle more of our material. If we choose to do that and invest in it ourselves, then we can do it. We can also have the option, though, of having someone else do the investing and still be able to recycle all the same products.
Okay. Thank you, Terry. One of the things in our single stream, you may have mentioned this, Brian, in your presentation, what are the start and stop dates for the pilot program among the apartment complexes? When does it begin, when does it end?
Right, so the start date for the single stream residential was February 18th to May 19th. The start time for the apartment complexes is going to be the week of March 28th. It's going to be the week after spring break.
So that's when it starts and
That's
it
when
ends?
it starts, and so we're going to end that at this, pretty much the same time as the residential one. We're in discussion with them about trying to make it last a little bit longer. I don't think we came to the
But students will be leaving.
That's precisely.
Yeah. And that's the reason why we wanted to stop
Cut that off.
about that time, because at the Frisco, that's all students.
One other thing that the Kessler report apparently encouraged was cooperation among cities in northwest Arkansas. Do we have conversations going on with Springdale and Bentonville and Rogers to maybe share the cost of that $35 million facility?
We've been talking with our local solid waste district, Boston Mountain Solid Waste District. We've had meetings with Rogers and Salem Springs and Springdale at those meetings talking about this issue, but that's as far as it's gone. It's just getting that information out, engaging what kind of interest we would get from other communities.
Yeah, I think, we met with them, and we also had our solid waste district plus Benton County Solid Waste District. They're two different ones. We had essentially everybody there but Bentonville. Bentonville was the only one that did not show interest in it. I think the main issue now is, one, to see some data. I think they're kind of waiting to see what we generate out of our pilots that we were going to do. It'll give them some idea. I think we'll have much more to lay on the table and show people that this is, if it stands true that we doubled the amount of recycling material coming in and at what rate there was of waste in it. It'll give them better information for them to decide. The Kessler promoted us talking to them because the more trash we've got and more recycling that we can put into it, the more we're going to get out of it, which also reduces the overall cost to whoever is sorting the trash. There's a minimum amount you need to make it worth your while to do it. If you don't have enough, one city by itself, it's tough to generate the level of recyclable materials that they need to run through a $10 to $30 million facility.
We do about 22 to 25 tons a day. On average, that's not enough to run a single stream facility. So Fayetteville could not do this by itself.
But, if it's a good deal for us, if it's going to lower our cost by half of the recycling expense, if I were the mayor of Springdale, the mayor of Rogers or Bentonville, I'd be very interested to know about this project. And, I'm interested to know what their objections are. Why didn't Bentonville show up?
Well, the contractual, I think it's primarily because of their contractual engagement.
Yeah, I think they entered into
With their
recent
disposal.
contract.
Right,
So they
okay.
were
So legally they couldn't do it.
I think that's part of their issue.
Right.
One final issue, I love this, that we voted 8-0 to move us to an 80% diversion rate. I don't remember voting for that. Was I on the council then?
You was not, John.
I was not.
You were not.
Thank you. About to say, boy, I had a weak moment. I'm all for recycling, and if our people want to recycle to the hilt, that's fine, but please, 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 don't coerce me and don't manipulate me. Educate me and persuade me. Stick flyers in the water bill all you want. Stick stickers on my recycle bins all you want. Try to influence me, but don't coerce me and don't manipulate me. I don't think there's a city in the world that's not padding the numbers and reaching 80% or even approaching that right now. and I think we're in danger of coercion and manipulation if we pursue that. So pursue it all you want, but please commit to not manipulating me or coercing
John,
me.
all they're doing is gathering the facts, and they're gonna present it to y'all, and you can vote it up or you can vote it down.
I hope our citizens speak out.
Well,
Well, I think a prime example, in this case with the single stream participation area, taking out those cards, all that informational, all that educational effort, all the information that went out, that 44 or 45% to 67, that was just people being engaged, interested, some very excited. I don't know if you may have seen the news spot about a lady that was not a recycler, but because it had become much easier for her and convenient, and now there was none of that. That was just proffered. All this was offered, and
Voluntary cooperation, participation.
yeah.
I like voluntary a lot.
That's why we do these things with our education program. That's why we're winning awards with our education program, because we're trying to make it simple and easy for people to understand what we want them to do.
One other question, that educators giving, every 3.5 days is giving a presentation?
Now that's...
that works out to one a week. What do you do the other 5 days?
That could also be talking with groups of students, count that as a presentation, going to civic groups. It's just a wide variety of getting out in the public and doing something to educate people. The rest of the time, he works for Boston Mountain Solid Waste District to do education out in the county.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, anything else? All righty then.
Okay.
Thank you all. Don't believe we have anything else. We're adjourned.